This is the story of how one man turned shared office space into a $47 billion company, then watched it collapse to $44 million in less than a year. Adam Neumann convinced some of the world's smartest investors to pour nearly $13 billion into WeWork, only to resign in disgrace after the company filed for bankruptcy and walk away with $1.7 billion. This became a corporate governance failure on the scale of Theranos or FTX, but unlike Elizabeth Holmes or Sam Bankman-Fried, Neumann somehow escaped criminal charges. Adam Neumann arrived in New York in 2001 as a 29-year-old Israeli immigrant with no clear direction and a history of instability that would have worried most people. Dyslexia had kept him from reading or writing until third grade, and by age 22, he'd already lived in 13 different homes. After 5 years in the Israeli Navy, he dropped out of Baruch College just 4 credits short of finishing, which pretty much summed up his approach to life at that point. What Neumann lacked in credentials, he made up for in charisma and a belief in himself that bordered on delusional. That 2008 brought him together with Miguel McKelvey, an architect whose childhood in what he described as a five-mother collective in Eugene, Oregon was almost as unconventional as Neumann's. McKelvey had played basketball at the University of Oregon, spent summers working at an Alaskan fish processing plant, and most recently had been managing retail rollouts for American Apparel when their paths crossed. The two founded Green Desk, an eco-friendly co-working space in Brooklyn that caught on faster than either expected. Within a year, they had over 100 offices generating between $350 and $2,400 per month, and in 2009, they sold the whole operation to their landlord for around $3 million. Each of them pocketed about $500,000, and instead of celebrating, they immediately started planning something bigger. WeWork launched in 2010 with a straightforward pitch: rent large office buildings, carve them into smaller spaces, and lease those spaces to freelancers, startups, and small businesses who couldn't afford traditional offices. What they were essentially doing was lease arbitrage in the commercial real estate market, buying long-term leases and reselling shorter-term ones at premium occupancy rates. But Neumann positioned it as something far more profound than real estate arbitrage, calling it community, movement, a capitalist kibbutz that would change how people thought about work itself. This put them in direct competition with IWG, the world's largest co-working operator that owned the Regus brand and had been doing flexible office space since 1989. But where IWG focused on profit-sharing models with landlords, WeWork was burning through venture capital to subsidize below-market rents. April 2011 saw their first location open on Grand Street in Soho, Manhattan, backed by Joel Schreiber's $15 million investment for a 33% stake. 4 locations across New York and 2,000 members materialized by the end of that first year. The growth became explosive. 15,000 members across 8 cities by 2014, with international expansion reaching London and Israel. The valuation hit $16 billion in 2015, then $20 billion by 2017, and investors couldn't get enough of what Neumann was selling. What he'd built inside the company was described by employees as cult-like, centered around charismatic devotion to his vision. Thank God its Monday parties became routine, with beer and tequila shots flowing at Monday all-hands meetings where Neumann, who preferred Don Julio 1942 tequila at over $100 per bottle, presided over what staff called an entitled frat boy culture. 2016 brought one moment that captured the whole operation perfectly. After announcing layoffs of 7% of their staff, around 1,000 employees, Neumann immediately threw a party serving tequila shots with a performance by Run DMC's Daryl McDaniels. Investors didn't care about the culture, they cared about the growth, and the growth kept coming. Everything changed in August 2017 when Masayoshi Son, the CEO of SoftBank, poured $4.4 billion into WeWork. That investment kicked off a relationship that would eventually see SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son dumped between $16 and $18.5 billion into the company. And Son didn't just believe in the business model, he believed in Adam Neumann personally. Neumann took full advantage of that trust. 2018 saw WeWork purchase a Gulfstream G650 private jet for over $60 million, which Neumann used to smoke marijuana so heavily during flights that cabin crews had to wear oxygen masks because of the smoke. The jets were frequently grounded for cleaning after alcohol spills, vomit, and what staff described as spitting tequila on each other. And on one occasion, a chartered jet found a cereal packet of marijuana on board, leaving Neumann stranded in Israel. The money wasn't just funding private jet adventures. WeWork was opening hundreds of locations around the world at a pace that made the fundamental problems with the business model irrelevant to everyone involved. Long-term leases averaging 15 years backed their expansion, while their tenants signed short-term leases averaging just 15 months, creating a mismatch of $47 billion in future lease obligations against only $4 billion in lease commitments from customers. None of this slowed Neumann down. According to the Wall Street Journal, his aspirations included living forever, becoming the world's first trillionaire, expanding WeWork to Mars, becoming Israel's prime minister, and becoming president of the world. January 2019 brought another $2 billion from SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son at a valuation of $47 billion, the absolute peak of the madness. About 12,500 employees worked across 485 locations in 28 countries, and on paper, Adam Neumann was worth billions. That's when everything fell apart. August 2019 saw WeWork file its Form S-1 to go public, a document that was supposed to excite investors but instead sent them running. The numbers told a story of catastrophic losses, with $1.9 billion burned in 2018 on just $1.8 billion in revenue, and over $900 million gone in just the first 6 months of 2019 alone. But here's the thing. The financial losses weren't even the worst part of the filing. What shocked Wall Street was the web of conflicts of interest the S-1 revealed. Neumann had trademarked the word "we" personally, then charged WeWork $5.9 million to license it back to the company he ran. Buildings that WeWork leased were partly owned by Neumann himself, and he'd sold $700 million of his personal WeWork stock right before filing for the IPO. The corporate structure handed him 20 times the voting power of ordinary shareholders, making him essentially untouchable. His wife Rebecca Paltrow Neumann, cousin of actress Gwyneth Paltrow, had founded WeGrow with $36,000 annual tuition and a mission to unleash every human's superpowers. The private school operated out of WeWork locations and reportedly had employees fired because Rebecca didn't like their energy. WeGrow was burning through millions while serving fewer than 50 students. Valuation estimates dropped from $47 billion to between $10 and $15 billion within days of the S-1 filing, and potential investors fled in every direction. September 17, 2019 brought the formal withdrawal of the IPO filing at a valuation around $10 billion, and 7 days later, Adam Neumann resigned as CEO, and this is where the story gets truly outrageous. October 2019 saw SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son assemble a $9.5 billion rescue package that valued the company at just $7 to $8 billion. And as part of this deal, Adam Neumann received an exit package worth approximately $1.7 billion. That number included up to $970 million for his shares, a $185 million consulting fee, and a $500 million credit line to repay his loans. The man who had just destroyed tens of billions of dollars in value walked away with $1.7 billion in his pocket. November 2019 brought layoffs of 2,400 employees, representing 20% of the workforce, and Miguel McKelvey, who'd been with Neumann since the Green Desk days, left the company in June 2020. Artie Minson and Sebastian Gunningham took over as co-CEOs, but by then the company was beyond saving. 2020 saw WeWork struggle through losses of $3.2 billion, and in October 2021, they went public through a SPAC merger at a valuation of around $9 billion, one-fifth of their peak. The bleeding continued. August 2023 found the company's market cap at just $270 million, with stock trading at levels that raised substantial doubt about the company's ability to continue operations. November 6, 2023 brought the inevitable Chapter 11 bankruptcy filing in New Jersey. $47 billion had collapsed to $44 million, and the company now carried $18.65 billion in total debts against $15.06 billion in assets. The stock traded at 83 cents per share, down 99.2% for the year, and the bankruptcy filing included 517 related entities, making it the third most related filings in a bankruptcy case since the bankruptcy code became effective in 1979. SoftBank and Masayoshi Son absorbed staggering losses, with $11.5 billion gone in equity and another $2.2 billion in debt still on the line, bringing their total losses above $14 billion. May 2020 brought Son's admission. "We made a failure on investing in WeWork. I was foolish." May 2024 saw WeWork emerge from bankruptcy after Yardi Systems invested $337 million for a 60% stake and hedge funds put in $113 million for 20%. SoftBank got reduced to a minority position of around 20%, and the restructuring eliminated $4 billion in debt, exited 170 unprofitable locations, and renegotiated about 450 leases. Today, WeWork operates approximately 337 locations, down from 777 at its peak, with a valuation around $750 million. And Adam Neumann? 2022 brought the founding of Flow, a new company focused on residential real estate and apartments, and Andreessen Horowitz invested $350 million at a $1 billion valuation. April 2025 saw Flow raise over $100 million more at a $2.5 billion valuation, and as of April 2024, Adam Neumann's personal net worth sits at an estimated $2.3 billion. The man who burned through $47 billion, laid off thousands of employees, and left investors with over $14 billion in losses is now running another billion-dollar startup. The WeWork story isn't just about one charismatic founder or one failed company. It's about what happens when unlimited capital meets unlimited ambition with no accountability holding either in check. Adam Neumann convinced some of the world's most sophisticated investors that he could revolutionize real estate, building a $47 billion company on promises of community and technology, transforming the simple act of renting office space. Underneath the vision and the parties and the cult-like culture sat a business model that never made sense, with long-term liabilities backed by short-term revenue creating a house of cards that couldn't survive scrutiny. When the music stopped, 2,400 people lost their jobs, investors lost over $14 billion, and thousands of small business tenants faced uncertainty. The man at the center of it all walked away with $1.7 billion and is now building his next empire, as if nothing happened. 2021 brought Neumann's admission to CNBC about the $47 billion valuation. It made us feel like we were right, which made me feel that whatever style I was leading at was a correct style at the time. I also think the chase, maybe it went to my head. I do think at some point it did. That's how Adam Neumann burned $47 billion, and somehow he's still on top.